This is unbelievable. Aaron Rodgers has yet to sign for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's ruining the roster as a free agent who might retire. He's 50-50. Hasn't committed to the Steelers, but the Steelers are there begging for Aaron Rodgers, man. As if, Aaron Rodgers was getting married with someone else, and you've got that one chick right there begging, doing anything. I'll sell my car. I'll sell my house. I'll give you everything. That's literally what the Steelers are looking. Sorry, man. You would think that they were one of the most prestigious franchises, tied for the most Super Bowls with the Patriots, but no, they're acting as if they were the Cleveland Browns. George Pickens, the best receiver on the Steelers, a week ago, traded for a third round pick and a later round pick as well. Now, if the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't planning on offering him an extension because this deal was coming to an end soon, I understand, that's not bad, assets to acquire for him. I understand he has not off the field, but he has on field problems, ironically, and locker room problems. People see him too much of a menace. Now, football wise, skill set wise, he's one of the best receivers in the league. He's one of the one players that could just throw the ball up and it's an 80% chance he'll come down with it. He's a athletic freak, man, and I will say I'm gonna miss him. Was one of my favorite players, and it's bad enough, that you traded George Pickens, but you didn't go out and, draft the receiver. You kind of just swapping him for DK Metcalf. Beforehand, the Steelers had a top 5 wide receiving core. Now Dallas has a top 5 receiving core, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are now going to be in the bottom 10 because it's DK and a bunch of bums. And now the Steelers are like, you know what? If we're going to entice Aaron Rodgers even more, we got rid of George Pickens because we know Aaron Rodgers loves throwing teammates under the bus, right? George Pickens is going to run a route. Aaron Rodgers is going to underthrow, go in the press conference, be like, George Pickens ran the wrong route. And then George Pickens is going to go into the locker room and absolutely tell Aaron Rodgers, a piece of his mind. And also in the press conference, he's going to, absolutely go in on Rodgers. You think Aaron Rodgers wants that? No. He said, I'm not going to be playing on a team where George Pickens is going to be calling me out and, might even physically harm me in the locker room for calling him out for his, miss route. So they said, you know what? We're going to trade George Pickens, even though he's one of the best receivers in the league. And then we're actually going to go out and get Allen Lazard to replace him. Jesus, man. Allen Lazard instead of George Pickens. That is absolutely going from, owning a Ferrari to owning a, 1995 Nissan Altima, if they even make those. But that's how bad it is. Allen Lazard is a bum. And not only that, they went and said Romeo Doubs is another option. Jeez, man. Any more mid? You went from having an absolute, beast of a vehicle to, we're just going to have some sort of mid vehicle. It'll do the job, but nothing special. You had the ability to have the 2 receivers that have the most yards per catch. Number 1 and 2 last year, and DK Metcalf and George Pickens, and instead you're going to get rid of one of them and bring in a couple guys that Aaron Rodgers likes. Have you not learned from the New York Jets? They did this for Rodgers. Bring in Devontae, bring in Lazard, bring in all the Green Bay boys. And you know what they did? They were trash, and they had the 7th overall pick. Because you know why? Because the New York Jets catered to Aaron Rodgers. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers had any common sense, they would not do this. But you could also see this as a positive thing, though, because the Steelers can finally go under 500, tank, get a top draft pick, and select a franchise quarterback in the draft. But the problem is, you're most likely going to be giving Aaron Rodgers a 2-year, $90 million. You heard it here first. He's going to get $45 million annually, win 3 games, get hurt, and absolutely ruin Mike Tomlin's, streak of over 500. Book that. But if the Steelers had any common sense, honestly, at this point, just do it. You've committed so much into this, relationship, a one-sided relationship, by the way, because Rodgers ain't committed, but the Steelers are somehow. And you basically just lose a bunch of games and go select yourself an Arch Manning or a franchise quarterback next year, because that's been the problem with the Steelers. You're stuck in no man's land because you don't want to lose enough games to get a top draft pick, and you don't want to, and you can't really win a Super Bowl going up against Patrick Mahomes with Mason Rudolph at the helm, or Will Howard. You actually have to go out and get yourself a top draft pick. You already fumbled your door. Might as well go out next season and get yourself Arch Manning. But anyways, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below. Do you think the Steelers made the right choice in letting go Pickens? My opinion, if you were going to get rid of Pickens, no matter what Aaron Rodgers thinks of him, and you weren't going to extend him, it's not a bad trade. But if you were going to extend him, but Rodgers said he doesn't like him, and you want Rodgers more than you want Pickens, then you are absolutely running this organization to the dirt.